Hello out there in podcast listening and viewer land. Welcome to another episode of the Tendent Micro Podcast, hosted by myself, Mike McCarthy, and my partner in crime, Matthew Petchel. Super stoked to have a great guest today, Mr. Les Burrows, the general manager of Geistlich Biopharmaceuticals, North America. And as I believe their current campaign states, we're going to be talking about regeneration today. For all of you who know the classic Who song, talking about my generation. Thank you. You're all going to have it stuck in your head today, but I just heard you're celebrating your 175th anniversary.
Yeah, can you believe it? So in Switzerland, Geistlich is like Elmer's is here. All the grade school kids use Geistlich glue, and that was their entree into animal products, which led to xenographic materials that got turned into bone graft. And so here we are 175 years later.
You know, it's funny, those companies are all so many European companies that start a certain way and stick with it, and it's 100, 150. So there's your first question right there. How does a company that's 175 years old stay relevant in an industry that is, especially in the last 10 years or so, become so tech? And
you know, it sounds funny to say this, but they were innovative and remain innovative. I think what was required is they had a base of knowledge. They had processed animal tissues. And so they made fertilizer, then they got into glue. And then about 40 years ago, Dr. Peter Geistlich was reading a magazine on bone regeneration, and there was an article by Philip Boyne out of Loma Linda, and he was talking about not having great bone grafting materials. And here's Peter Geistlich sitting there in Switzerland saying, I do nothing but deal with animal bone, and let me see if I can craft some. So he flew over to LA, and they created Bioos, which was the first real bone grafting entree into the dental space.
They talk about gold standard and brands. I think people know Bioos more than, well, I think people are a little hesitant to try to pronounce Geistlich, but I've had regenerative material done. I'm a periodontal disease sufferer, so I wanted, and going through this process, I'm like talking to other dentists, and they seem to think almost of an afterthought with regenerative materials. I mean, they'll say, oh, I get something from my implant company. Should it be taken out of this is a commoditized product zone?
Look, everybody has to make their business decisions, right? And so I think it's not unlike building a house, right? You can have the coolest technology, and the implant space is full of cool stuff. Like there are some really good implant companies that make great materials. Now we're getting into AI and digital. So there's all this great technology that's entering the space, I think, finally. But the issue is nothing works if you don't have a great foundation to start on. And so if your bone grafting material and your soft tissue grafting material aren't best in class, then you've applied all of this great technology and it's ultimately going to fail because you've basically built on sand or whatever. And so I think that's been the critical piece. And so I come from the medical device world, and there was, you know, particularly on the spine side, if you weren't putting in good bone and getting good bone fusion, it didn't matter how good your hardware was, you were going to have ultimate failure. And so I think that translates really well into the dental space. And we do remain relevant. And little things like, so Bioos takes 892 hours to process that material. The average bone graft takes 12. And so there's a cost associated with that. It leads to improved architecture of the bone, all kinds of other things, but it's worth doing and worth doing right.
Well, I think that's just responsibility to the end. The last thing I want is for it to fail or get implantitis or something. So that's how my periodontist got me introduced to your product, of what was going into my head.
Yeah. Well, that's the last thing you want, but it's also the last thing your periodontist wants is this thing to fail. That just costs more money, takes more time. And I think there's an element of it eats it at a clinician when something fails, right? I mean, it eats at all of us, but especially a clinician, they want to be perfect. just like all of us, and they want to do it right. They checked all the boxes, did everything the way they were supposed to. And then all of a sudden it fails. And they're like second guessing themselves.
Yeah.
Why did it fail? Missed something? Did I see something? And I don't know that they ever go back and think, oh, you know what? I bought the regen material kind of on closeout, or I got it for free because I bought an implant. I didn't even know if it was the right one or the best one. And sort of there's an awareness of that needs to be. And imagine building a house and buying your foundation from the roofing company,
Yeah.
right? Or the company that sells drywall. It's like, yeah, they threw it in. You would think, okay, it seems like a good deal, but wait, is that the right thing to do? Everything starts ground up.
I know the majority of implants globally are being done by GPs now.
Mhm.
I love my periodontists. I love my oral surgeons, but there are some great GPs doing immediate load implants every day.
Think about it. There's 12,000-ish specialists in the US. There's 150,000 GPs, more and more of which are doing their own implants. As technology improves, as their skill set improves, they're able to do it very well. And so it was a space that we needed to get into. We have additional products that will be coming that are dedicated to serve that customer specifically for those sort of everyday procedures where you're banging it out, you're taking care of your customer, but you have to turn at a rate that makes sense for your business model too. And so we need to design products that fit that.
Right. And I know recently we were talking about this, that like somewhere between 5 and 10% of dental implants fail within 10 years. Is that widely known? We know it because we were doing some research on it, right? And it becomes, you start scratching your head. That means 1 in 10, not a big deal, 1 in 10. But then it's like, wait, 1 in 10 is actually quite a bit.
It's not great, right?
It's not great.
So there's a reputational cost there, I think, that people don't always get. That it's like, all right, well, I'm 93% successful, and this product would only take me to 98% successful. Okay, that's 5 people that are now getting a good outcome instead of a not good outcome. And part of living in the world of digital is everybody's a Yelp reviewer and everybody has an opinion on you. And the cost of that failure is really hard to monetize. It's hard to quantify exactly what that is, but we know it's substantial, plus your materials costs and things like that. So if you do 100 implants in a year, if you improve your percentage of success by even 3%, you're probably net positive in terms of pure cash, and reputationally, you're significantly better. And then those referring dentists want to send more to you, and you grow your own practice, and you're off to the races.
And I think emotionally you are too. And I hate to
Totally,
but like your confidence is higher because you had fewer failures, right? I mean,
without a doubt.
I think that's kind of understated in a way. I mean, we all know it,
right.
but it's like, I think everybody gets so focused on the ROI or the bottom line, or wait, is it going to save me money? Or, is using this, whether it's a bone regeneration material or anything, like if I'm buying on price and it's a substandard product or whatever you want to define it, is it really worth it for all the things, not just the money, not just the upfront cost, but all those other things?
Well,
that's the hard thing for us all to do.
I think dentists, specialists alike have to remember consumers have a say in this. When I get my oil changed, I'm putting full synthetic in that costs triple what, because on my perception, I want the best to keep the cars running. I don't think this is something, I think clinicians have to be better at communicating with the patient. I want to give you the best procedure and outcome that's predictable. So I'm going off. This isn't a commercial.
You think about it though. Those folks have so much to manage every day. Yeah, they're worried about the patient in front of them. They're built their life on taking care of those folks, but they've got their staff that's servicing them. They've got their real estate. They've got their chairs. They've got their electronic medical records. They've got the whole thing. Like, imagine all of that spinning in your head. And then, oh yeah, I've got to think about regeneration and what's the difference between this material and that material. So I think one of our tasks where we can really help that clinician is, you've got all this big picture stuff to worry about. You worry about that. When it comes to regeneration, you should be able to call me and say, what do you think's best for this particular sort of case with this particular type of patient? What's going to be the right solution for that? And our team should be able to deliver that for you so that you can focus on those much bigger items.
So there are some people who buy premium right off the bat because their parents were premium people, or
Right, sure.
they learned it from a mentor, like, their first job out, right? But then there's some people that aren't, and they eventually come around. We all eventually come around because, well, it's partly finance related, right? When you're younger, you don't have as much money, you've got debt and all that. So you sort of mind, you look at things a little differently. And then as you get older, it changes. But what have you found is the tipping point that when you win someone over, when you win a customer and they go, yeah, and they say something like, I can't believe I waited this long to come around to this. What have you seen as a common thread, as a tipping point as to how that happens?
I wish there was a universal answer. I don't know that there is. I think for each person, there's a little bit of a different tipping point. For some, there's a particular train wreck case where they were really unsure and they were challenged, like, what are we going to do? I'm willing to throw the kitchen sink at it. And they'll use something like a GEM 21, some sort of accelerator in the healing process. And they see that soft tissue healing on their first week follow-up and they go, wow, that's substantially different. That's not what I expected to see. And then they see the bone healing that follows up as a result of that when they place the implant. And they're like, wow, that's absolutely not what I expected to see this early. And so I think that can be one. I think the other one where you win people over is it's Friday afternoon at 4:30 and they've got an emergency case that's coming in tomorrow morning and they can't get materials. There was a problem with ordering or whatever. And they call the local rep and the local rep says, got it. I'll track it down. I'll be there. I'll meet you at the office at 6 a.m. and we'll take care of your patient and you'll be on your way. And then they start to think, all right, well, that's worth the premium. Like, one, I get a great material. Two, I have access to somebody that's going to be there to support me in the time of need. It's easy to be there between 10 and 3 every day. It's that unique time where you can bring something different for them.
Yeah.
Great to know when something overlooked.
It is.
Hey, we're supposed to be a micro podcast and we could talk to you all day.
Right.
What was your experience coming over and dealing with dental professionals, whether it be specialist or GP dentists? What was your experience, and can you compare and contrast?
I think the universal is these people care about what they do and they care about their patient. Like, at the end of the day, that's all you really want. I think the difference I found is oftentimes from the company perspective, well, it may not be massive, but it's massive for us. And it's massive for the surgeons that are taking care of that space and that patient. Let's build a business here. And I think about dental and oral maxillofacial surgery and periodontology in the same way. Yeah, it's a relatively small, but really attractive, fast growing, aging population. The connection more and more between oral health and systemic health.
And there's something there, that we all can learn about, how, like, we all want to grow. We all want to maybe be more successful, whether that means money or whatever it means. And sometimes it's not just all about biting off more of the enchilada, right? It's sort of taking care of what you got, and I don't want to say slow growth, but calculated growth by people and experts and the right partners that are aligned with your, right. You guys could go out and you could probably find a knockoff cheap implant if you wanted to, and then also be in the implant space and be like this.
Oh, please
thing.
don't.
Right. But I mean, it's like, it's nice that there are, when we need an expert, it's nice to know you can call
Specialty.
an expert and be a specialist. It's the reason specialists exist, and even in dentistry it exists. So I think it's nice to know that there are still companies out there who care about being really staying in their lane and being really good at the thing that they're good at, because
well, you're meeting your customers where they are. And
Yeah.
I love your rep structure. I love the autonomy, the independence that's going on. And I've even heard your reps actually scrub in side by side sometimes during procedures. And that's the hidden value adds. Not hidden.
That's the healthcare side of
that's the healthcare side of it.
That's Matt. I think if we concentrate in our little space, which, by the way, still has plenty of room for innovation. Like, there's more and more cool stuff coming. We're doing some internal development things that'll be on the market as soon as AAP this year. And we'll continue to look for external opportunities that make sense in this space where we want to play.
Yep.
Well, Les, can't thank you enough for sharing your time with us, but we're going to make sure our audience is talking about regeneration. We just like saying it. Sorry, it's fun.
We like you saying it.
And Les, thanks for the time. But thanks for taking what some may think is an afterthought and putting a face to it. Really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity to be here, and I'll look forward to the next time we talk.
You bet. Thanks, Les.
All right. Be well, guys.